Well, talking of teams, everyone I think by now probably knows that my team allegiance is Arsenal Football Club. So I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the man who transformed my club from the mediocre minnows of the Premier League to the all-conquering champions, because he brought this strange guy in called Arsene Wenger, who we'd never heard of. And he'd been in Japan. We were like, he's lost his mind, this guy. But David Dein knew what he was talking about. He was the vice chairman of Arsenal, and the rest is history. Won the league 3 times in 8 years, a host of other trophies, and became the best team in the world, probably ever. And David Dein is with me now. David, great to see you.
It is.
And Nadia's kindly agreed to stay with us. David, a lot of speculation. Well, first of all, your reaction to the result tonight, England, what did you think?
Very satisfied. We started off very slowly. It was a bit of a pedestrian first half, but certainly woke up in the second half, and it was a very good, accomplished performance. And I'm delighted for the team and for all the fans.
Who would have thought that we could score 9 goals at a World Cup and Harry Kane wouldn't get any of them?
There you go. Well,
I mean, it's a good problem for Southgate to have. Everyone's banging in goals apart from the guy who normally does.
That's right. But you're only as good as your last game. You've got to keep winning.
What does Southgate do now with this team? Because now there's a lot of competition for places. He brought Phil Foden back in.
Yes.
I think after he read my column in The Sun, I'm not sure, demanding Foden start, but he was great tonight. Marcus Rashford was on fire tonight. I don't see how he can drop Rashford, but he can't play Rashford, Sterling, Saka, Foden and Kane and Mount and Grealish.
Yes. Piers, we're all frustrated managers, aren't we?
Who would you put?
And I can see
If it's Senegal in the next round we've got, right? On Sunday evening, I think. Yeah. Who would you put in that front 5?
I'm very pleased I'm not the manager, because he's got to stand up to be counted, and he'll be judged on the team's performance.
Nadia, what do you think? Who would you put now? If you were Gareth Southgate, obviously Kane starts, so who do you put around Kane?
That's hard. That's a
and
very hard
decision. Who do you drop? Who do you ruin their World Cup?
I don't know. I think Rashford's been doing very well, so I'll choose him. And then also Saka, because I'm also Arsenal fan.
I think you've got to play Saka on the right, Foden in behind Kane. Rashford, I mean, well, one of them's got him on the left. And they can't both, can they?
It's a pleasant problem to have.
Yeah.
Luxus.
It's a good problem. Let's turn to the World Cup more generally, because, David, you've been one of the top football executives for many decades now. You know how it all works. Let's start, first of all, with all the noise around FIFA as an organisation. You've dealt with them over the years. How much of the criticism is justified?
Well, I think perhaps initially, certainly when the bid process went on, it was definitely flawed. There's no question about that. However, that was 12 years ago. We have to move on. We've decided to put a team into the World Cup. We've qualified, and we've got to give them the best support we possibly can. And I really feel sorry for people who haven't come out here, because they're missing a lot. They're missing a phenomenal tournament. I have personally seen 15 out of the last 16 World Cups. My first World Cup was 1960.
How many have you seen?
15 out of the last out of 6.
Have you really?
Since 66.
What, 4 a day you've been going to?
No, I'm talking about World Cups.
Oh,
Never
right.
mind the games.
But how many games have you been going to here?
4 a day. I've been in heaven. I've been obviously going around with Arsenal. We've been seeing 4 games a day. Out of all the games, we've only missed 2 out of the whole.
I just want to interrupt you, because there's a man chanting Piers Morgan is a legend, and I wouldn't like to think the cameras hadn't picked that up. So just want to make sure we got that on camera.
You sure he didn't say leg end, did you?
How many World Cups have you been to?
World Cups, the first one was 1966 at Wembley when we won it.
I was 1.
Yes.
So you went to that one?
I've been to 15 since then, missing out one in 1982 in Spain. Otherwise,
so
I've seen everyone. 15
World Cups.
And Piers, out of all of them, this has to rank right at the top. This is as good, if not better, than any other.
Funny enough, I saw Graham Souness this morning. He said the same thing. Best he'd been to.
It's been phenomenal, the whole organisation of it. You know, people are quick to criticise and slow to praise. Qatar deserve a lot of praise for the way they've put it on. Last night we went to the game at Lusail Stadium. It finished at 5-12. I was back in the hotel at 12:15. Couldn't do that at Wembley.
Should politics ever get involved with sport?
I don't think so, because where does it end? Sport is a sport, football is a sport, and we've got to treat it as such. And once you start introducing politics, we're in trouble, because we could have 32 countries here with different political messages. Where does it end?
All of which have their own problems.
And, you know, FIFA do deserve some credit. And I think Gianni Infantino, particularly the president, obviously, everybody it's easy to criticise somebody, but it's been a magnificent World Cup. You can't I mean, the accommodation's been great, the transport has been
What did
wonderful.
I mean, look, I think the problem it felt to me was that press conference he gave, where he slightly over-egged the souffle. He went on a bit too passionately.
Yeah.
And when he began telling everybody, I'm gay, I'm Arabic, and I'm everything else, I was like, where's this going to finish? He's like, he seemed to be everything.
But don't forget, he's been a bit hammered by certain members of the press.
Sure.
I don't think you're amongst that lot, are you, Piers?
What did you make of it, Nadia? I mean, it's a hard job running FIFA, but I knew what he was trying to say. He was trying to say, look, there's a lot of hypocrisy, which I think there is. I've been on this myself. But he probably slightly overdid it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I don't think he knows how it feels to truly be in someone else's shoes that way. He always explained it, but I think his message was kind of that we should be a bit more tolerant, and football is the beautiful game that can unite, and it's for everyone, this region deserves also to experience World Cup, and I think it's going to do great things for the region, not only for Qatar.
You've had a bit of criticism back home.
Yeah.
Everybody who seems to come here, I got criticised for coming. I was like, I don't care whether you think I should not. I've been in the Middle East a lot in my life. I like the Middle East. I like the people here. I think they deserve a bit more respect for what they're doing here. And that doesn't mean you ignore the areas where they could certainly be improving. But I don't think England's in any great shape to extol their moral virtue on other countries. What do you think of this argument about the morality of it all?
Honestly, as you said, to be honest, I don't really understand it. For me, this was the decision that was been taken 12 years ago. And now that we're here, we should try to make the best out of it. I think there's problems everywhere. And trying to highlight one thing extremely for so long time, I think is a bit too much. What I see in it is that football is a great tool to bring change, to educate, to improve. Just the fact that we're sitting here talking about what could be better, that's a change. You
could spin any of these numbers. There are so many millions of migrants, 2.5 million migrants here. How many countries would allow 90-odd% of their population to be migrants, right? And they come here to earn more money than they could from the countries they come from in almost every case. Yes, there have been a number of deaths. Yes, those should be investigated. Yes, the conditions have had to be improved. So therefore, that's an admission things weren't as good as they should be. But I was speaking to some women yesterday, Qatari women. Everyone in Qatar gets free education, for example. I didn't know that. They said there's gender pay equality throughout all official bodies, including the government.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. It's not quite how people maybe in Denmark or England think it is here.
No, I don't think that's correct, exactly. I think some of the Western media has been taking one thing and kind of spinning it. And a lot of people that come here, they say, well, I was imagining something totally differently. And then to be very frank, it's not because I'm trying to build paint your picture, does not. But I'm just, whether it deserves credit, you should give it. And for me, this World Cup so far has been brilliant.
David, putting on a World Cup is an unbelievably difficult thing. And I think we can all agree that so far it's run very, very well. No traffic problems, the stadiums are out of this world. If you want a drink, you can get one very easily in restaurants and bars all over the town, hotels. There's no real problem with that. I personally rather like the fact the fans can't all get drunk inside the stadiums, because I was at the Wembley Euros final last year, and frankly, it was a complete disgrace.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the capacity, they're running now at 97% capacity, so virtually every stadium is full every game.
Well, that atmosphere tonight, America-Iran, was probably the best atmosphere so far.
There you go. Well, I thought Argentina-Mexico was really rich. I mean, that was wonderful. And nearly 90,000 people, and a lot of the Argentinian fans, the Mexican fans, were side by side. And I mean, for FIFA, this has been a phenomenal success. It really has.
What about the allegations which have swirled around FIFA for decades of corruption? You know all these people.
Yeah.
We know that a lot of them have been caught with their fingers in the till. So the corruption has clearly been real and clearly been going on. Should FIFA go through a wholesale reformation, do you think?
Well, no, but I think in fairness, when Gianni Infantino, don't forget, he inherited that mess. And to his great credit, I think he's actually cleaned up the shop. So I think he deserves something for that, for the way FIFA currently being run. Of course, everybody's going to be critical. He's got 211 mouths to feed. Not everybody's going to be satisfied. That goes with the territory.
I mean, there's huge money in a World Cup, and where there's huge money, there's always corruption of some sort.
Piers, we can be cynical, but meanwhile, this tournament will gross something like $7 billion, right? You've got to say that is a huge success. It's wonderful. It's when it all gets recycled back into football around the world.
I certainly think, Nadia, you're walking around Qatar. I know you've had to, sadly, to leave to be at your mother's funeral, but I've been here for 5 days now, just walking around and milling around with regular fans from all around the world. You get a sense of the scale of a World Cup, the sheer volume of countries, supporters, walking around with flags and everything. Secondly, a lot of happiness, no real incidents, no fighting, no vomiting in the street. I mean, feels like a very safe and happy event to me.
Yeah, definitely. I've been enjoying it. As you said, the atmosphere, the vibe is very, very nice, pleasant, safe. The fans are enjoying themselves. The fan zones are full. I've been a couple of times to, fan festival.
What's it been like to be a woman in Qatar for you?
I mean, for me, it's been the same as it is everywhere. I felt safe, like in the US and Europe. As I said, it's very hard to point fingers if you haven't really experienced it yourself. And this is a way for us to educate. I think football has that power to educate. See, because you read something or you heard something without actually being there.
Also, for you coming from Afghanistan, where you were deprived in education by the Taliban, and now millions of young girls in Afghanistan are once again being deprived in education by the Taliban. To come to a country like Qatar, which is a small country, but where education is free for all, including all girls, I mean, that's not a thing to turn our noses up at.
No, I think that's amazing. I think that's a great example to set. That should be a norm anywhere, free education. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
David, who is going to win the World Cup? Come on, you know your football.
Well, I think Nadia wasn't far wrong when I think you went for Brazil.
Brazil, they're my team.
I think France won't be too far away.
I don't think Portugal will be far away.
They won't be.
They look good.
And I have to tell you, yesterday was one. I mean, we're seeing. I'm going around a lot with Arsene. We're seeing 4 games a day. And yesterday, after the Ghana game, where they were playing Korea, and it was a wonderful game of football.
Yeah.
We were coming to Lusail for the 4th game. I said to Marcin, are you ready for another game? He said, I'm ready for 2. This will be unique. You will not see another World Cup with 4 games
Can
a day.
England win it? Put your neck out.
If we win all the next games, we can win it.
Wow.
I think we can beat Senegal. Then we're in the quarterfinals, right?
Then who knows?
Anything can happen in a World Cup. You've been there. You've been in the European final.
Yeah. Anything can happen. That's football,
Yeah. Listen, thank you, particularly for coming back to the World Cup. That takes a lot of guts, and I send my very best to you and all your family as well. And I can see the spirit of both your father and your mother in you. Well, not ever having met them, but knowing what they did, I can see it in you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for
And
having
David,
me.
great to see you.
As always.
I bet you better get your bed, because presumably you're off to another 4 games tomorrow, are you?
Well, only 2, I'm afraid. We can't do 4. But I'll be
Final question for you. Arsenal 5 points clear of the Premier League. Is it coming back? Are we going to win the league this season?
I think we have a decent chance because everybody can beat everybody this year.
Do we need to buy a top striker in January?
I think they have to be bold in the transfer market in January. Would be my
the big checkbook out.
Would be my advice.
What about Cristiano Ronaldo?
I'm not going to comment on
Put him up front with Jesus. Then you'd have God and Jesus. That's a good combination.
That's a good one. I wish I'd have thought of that.